Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Tragedy at Sugarman's Beach in St. Catherine. Man drowns and 10-year-old missing. Farmers suffer millions in losses following the passage of Hurricane Beryl. And government takes proactive steps to strengthen disaster resilience. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shamela Pullen. Here are the details. A 20-year-old man is dead and a 10-year-old girl missing after a drowning incident at Sugarman's Beach in Portmore, St. Catherine. It's understood that the child was at the beach with others on Thursday when she went for a swim and got into difficulty. The man was attempting to rescue her when he met his demise.
They started swimming that side first, and then them came over Sugarman here, and then them went. The little girl was swimming in the water, and she got in control because the water was very heavy. You can feel the wind and the heaviness because we had the hurricane pass by the day before.
That little girl about how old?
She was 10.
10 years old.
Yeah. So she got in difficulty, and the gentleman went into the water to save her, and both of them drowned.
Wake up this morning, taking a walk, and see like a little coconut head floating. And I said, that is one of them, and missing from yesterday.
Members of the Marine Police and Jamaica Defense Coast Guard are now searching for the little girl. There is still no word from a meeting held this morning with the leaders of the two telecommunication companies and the Jamaica Public Service JPS. They are currently meeting with Minister of Energy and Telecommunications, Beryl. The entities are expected to produce a comprehensive briefing on plans to resume normal operations following the passage of Hurricane Beryl on Wednesday. The JPS, in a release earlier today, said that at 7 a.m., power has been restored to 80% of its customers, primarily in Kingston and St. Andrew, St. Catherine and St. Thomas. Assessments are ongoing in other parts of the country. The Jamaica Agriculture Society has reported widespread devastation to the country's agriculture sector following Wednesday's heavy rains associated with Hurricane Beryl. According to the GAS, farmers have suffered millions of dollars in losses, with thousands of acres of crops destroyed or significantly damaged. The poultry industry was also severely impacted, with chicken farmers reporting significant losses.
You know, most small farmers in chicken, they cut steak and make their pen. That's what they afford. Most of these structures have been damaged and the birds have been battered. So it's a major loss. I have not had any report from the egg farmers. And as you know, we are self-sufficient in table eggs. So I would think that they would suffer some damage. But I was trying to call the president, and I'm not getting any calls out of Trelawney. So I can't really comment, but I think they suffer as well.
The full extent of the damage is still being assessed, but the GAS is urging the government to provide support to affected farmers to help them recover from the disaster. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark says once assessments to damage caused by Hurricane Beryl are complete, the government will be in a position to act shortly after. Dr. Clark says financing options available for the recovery. The details in this report.
According to Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark, preliminary assessments indicate that the recent impact of Hurricane Beryl will require the government to tap into the first two layers of this financial framework, the Contingency Fund and the Natural Disaster Fund. Dr. Clark says these resources will enable the government to respond swiftly and effectively to the needs of affected communities.
This totals $4.5 billion. It's still early days, but we may also have to access the next layer, which consists of our contingent credit claim with the IDB. As such, on Thursday, I initiated the process for this access. While the maximum amount under this layer for the most severe natural disasters is approximately $46 billion, It will take a few days to ascertain exactly how much of this Beryl will trigger, as well as how much we will need.
Additionally, Dr. Clark says Jamaica has bolstered its disaster risk management efforts by securing tropical cyclone and excess rainfall policies with the Caribbean Catastrophe Reinsurance Facility, CRIF.
We will know by end of business on Friday on the possible payouts from the tropical cyclone policy, but we have to wait until early next week to receive feedback regarding the excess rainfall policy.
The finance minister says with Hurricane Beryl only the first hurricane in the 2024 hurricane season, the country must remain vigilant and responsible with its resources.
Over the next few days, the government of Jamaica will aggregate the estimates of damage and interventions required and finalize the total resources available from disaster risk financing sources. We have learnt from past experiences. What differentiates this time from previous similar occasions is that this time the government of Jamaica has been proactive in arranging disaster risk financing in advance. As such, we do not need to scramble in the aftermath of Hurricane Beryl to finance the emergency response and recovery required.
Nakinski Robinson, TVJ News.
And over in Portland, residents are still picking up the pieces following the passage of Hurricane Beryl. Our reporter Anthony Lugg was in Long Bay and filed this report.
Yesterday afternoon, we were unable to come to this section of Portland. That's because the roadway leading to this area was impassable. However, we received several videos showing what the situation was like. Now, water from the seas came gushing onto the roadway, and as you can see around me, it's still here. Sand, slippers, water bottles, just about everything is along the roadway. The road is still blocked partially. Sand is still here. Motor vehicles traversing this area have to be hopscotching and just trying to make their way. Earlier, I saw a vehicle almost got stuck in this sand right here. Now, I visited several other communities on my way here and have been speaking with residents. Here's what they had to say.
The sea was at its peak. Some waves higher than I am. It was astonishing.
When you look on and you saw those waves as you talk, tell me what was going through your mind. What were you saying?
I was wondering. I was contemplating whether or not we were going to have a tsunami because I'm way down to the sea. So, you know, I kept looking, watching the sea at all times.
Where do we go from here? Just try to put back our life together. I hope say the people who really need the assistance will get the assistance and not the ones who don't really need it. Because most of the time when these things happen, that is what happens.
Most communities in Portland remain without power at this time. Earlier we saw the Jamaica Public Service representatives carrying out work. We're being told they're trying to clear the blockage from the light poles that toppled before they move to restore power in the area.
Meanwhile, in St. Thomas, more devastation while some residents remain marooned. Karen Simpson has the details.
After more than 48 hours since the passage of Hurricane Beryl, several residents in St. Thomas remain marooned. In Port Morand, they've sprung into action to clear blocked roads. But for this man, not one but two trees destroyed his home.
I need some urgent help right now. Because the whole of the tree is on my house, right in the middle of the house. And I can't live in the house now, I can't sleep in the house. If rain fall, it wet up right now.
And this farmer says he's still thankful as things could have gotten worse.
Look for the farm boy, if I get bad liquor, I'm cool breadfruit in the tree, my very liquor, breadfruit.
Over in Grand Spen, what had been a long-standing fear of residents became a reality. Their homes were flooded.
Beryl has done her work, flood outs. This from off of the road, came in my yard, in my home, in the bathroom, through the kitchen, everywhere.
Night about 9 o'clock, we just wake up to clear water and mud in the house right now. The fridge damaged, generator knock out, I will have a generator used, and the bed them wet up everything, water, there is me in the house.
The main road leading into the community is also heavily silted. The residents contend the flooding was caused by improper drainage.
The water doesn't have anywhere to run or to channel through. As you can see, the outcome.
You just see the MP come this one and the councillor and say them will come back. Well, them send a tractor clean the place, so we don't know why it will be the outcome. And like if more rain come, this will be the same. Because all of the water that coming from up the hill, look 14 miles away up, so just dump off in a grand spell. So we are at the mercy of the water right now. And that's time see the swamp over there come over now. And the crocodile, them in there, we don't know where them are going to do later.
Over in the community of Lloyds, appeal for urgent assistance from political representatives.
What are we voting for? Who are representing us here at Swamp Road? We need some help. We need road. We need bridge. Come in, man. Somebody come in, come help us. We are dead there, so we don't have no representative. When election time, we soon enough. But in a disaster time, we can't see nobody. This not fair. We need a bridge. We are tired to walk through the water. We are tired to walk over this thing that is very dangerous. We have elderly people up there. If somebody should take sick right now, we have to lift the person from the next community to come over this bridge.
Carrie Simpson, TVJ News.
Over in St. Mary, our news team witnessed dangerous attempts by some residents who attempted to remove zinc and other fallen debris from downed power lines. Several communities in the parish remain without electricity. There is also significant damage to livestock and agriculture. Over in Wilderness, several residents suffered damage to their homes.
Blowing to one time, I hear the roof start cry. And when I look, I see the front part of it lift up. And I get some electric thick cord, tight. See it and tight. And one time, I only go and I blow over the sun. Whole top the farm.
Port Maria says most people who were in shelters have left.
Still checking because you would understand that the telephone network and also the electricity network, so we would not have had occasion to reach every shelter manager so far. But for those that we are in contact with, the schools, mainly the schools and the churches, they are clear as we speak. From the persons have returned to their place of abode to do their normal cleaning up and so on.
From blocked roads to blocked phone lines, connectivity is proving a challenge for people in Westmoreland and Hanover. The details in this report.
When we set out to cover the hurricane's impact in the most affected communities in Westmoreland, we didn't get far. Scenes like these greeted us at every turn, and where the authorities were unable, citizens stepped in, the police in this instance giving a helping hand.
Our communications is down. I haven't heard from NWA since a day ago, and I spoke to them prior to the hurricane, and we did have a plan of action, but somehow, however, that has gone through the door. Haven't heard from them from morning. I can't blame them. Their phone, the network is down.
Not only is the network down, but there's no electricity in most areas. There's also concern about the state of some schools. These images of the Mannings High School show the destruction in the aftermath of the hurricane.
The good thing is that school is out now and we have a little time to fix it. And we, of course, we know the Ministry of Education will provide some support, but sometimes, as we know, this takes time. And in the meantime, for us as a private sector and individuals, if we can go and help out the school, that also be a good thing.
In Negril,
in terms of hotels, there is not much structural damage yet because, as you can see, the sea is calm now, but we are expecting that the storm surge will come later today into tomorrow. So we're watching that because that's where we usually have more damage than anything else.
In neighboring Hanover, motorists were particularly cautious while traversing this road in Ramble because of the utility pole. With the network down, residents had difficulty contacting the JPS. Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
It's time for a break. Stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. Mayor of Kingston, Andrew Swaby, toured several communities in rural St. Andrew on Thursday. Mayor Swaby visited Stony Hill and surrounding communities.
There are a lot of trees that were down, GPS wires that were also down. And some roads, you can see the trees that were along the pathway on some of the main roads and community roads. There is generally a situation where there is no light in some of these areas, and the JPS has been contacted, and they were aware of the situation. But of course, JPS has to make sure that they have to assess the area and then determine if they can put on back the light.
Mayor Swaby says the team has embarked on a cleanup campaign in the affected areas. Some shelters have also been closed.
In terms of the shelters, so far, what we can account for, you would understand that because in most of the communities, some lights are not, there is no power, then person's phone or shelter manager's phones are down. But what we can account for so far is that of the 38 shelters that were open, 11 has been closed or deactivated. That account for about 119 persons. We are still checking the other shelters to see what the situation with those.
The aftermath of Hurricane Beryl has unveiled an environmental crisis. This as debris continues to block waterways, posing significant threats. Sandy Williams reports.
Work crews have been working around the clock to remove downed trees following the passage of Hurricane Beryl. The fallen trees are not just lying across roadways. With heavy winds and flash floods, they are being carried into water bodies. The Doheny River, for instance, is polluted with just about anything. On the surface, broken tree branches, plastic bottles and bags are displayed. But what's hidden below is much worse.
You're mentioning the Doheny River, but every gully, for example, the gullies that end up by East Kingston, by Sigani, by Springfield, those gullies will also get clogged with garbage. The Tivoli Gully, and then other gullies as well. So they will, as you say, block the waterway. The water will back up and cause flooding. But of course, afterwards, the garbage stays there and it rots, and it becomes a haven for pests of all kinds, rats and other vermin.
This is just one of several waterways that have seemingly become a net, collecting anything that's floated away during the passage of the hurricane.
When the garbage gets into the sea, that is where it becomes a problem, because plastic bags, for example, when they float in the water, look like jellyfish. And turtles and other animals that eat jellyfish will try and eat the plastic bag. And of course, they can't digest the plastic and will kill the marine animals.
A study conducted after Hurricane Delta in 2020 on the impacts of debris in waterways post-hurricane revealed that an influx of debris ranging from plastics to organic matter poses multifaceted challenges to aquatic ecosystems. Physical barriers created by large debris obstruct natural water flow, exacerbating flood risks and altering sediment dynamics. But the environment is just one component. There are health implications. Professor Peter Figueroa is a public health specialist.
If you have to walk through the water, then you have to be careful, because once the water touches your skin, there's a risk of things like fungal infections or allergies, because if there are chemicals in the water, they may cause skin rashes. So there are a variety of problems. So people do need to avoid any kind of pools of water or rivers or streams at this time.
In the meantime, the National Solid Waste Management Authority, NSWMA, says it is aiming to remove the fallen trees as quickly as possible.
We have a lot of fallen trees, and we are going around, the NSWMA crew, led by our Parks and Gardens Department and Operations Department. We are all over cutting trees, cutting them up into pieces, putting them up on our brand new tipper trucks and carting them away. Why are we interested in this? Because we need to have the roadway clear so that we can come for your garbage.
Sandy Williams, TVJ News. All courts across the island will remain closed today. This is due to the effects of Hurricane Beryl. In a media release, the Court Administration Division says comprehensive assessments of all court facilities are being conducted to evaluate any damage and ensure the premises are safe for the resumption of operations. Normal court operations are expected to resume on Monday, July 8, pending the outcome of the assessment and any necessary repairs. The public is urged to stay informed through official channels for further updates. It's now time for the Business Minute.
The Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, says it is in communication with the government of Jamaica as the country looks to recover from the impact of Hurricane Beryl on July 3, 2024. In a release, the CDB says it has already deployed staff to Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines to assist in delivering support as both countries were affected by the storm on July 1. The CDB-supported regional response mechanism has been activated, mobilizing resources such as personnel, equipment, and financial assistance for territories most severely affected by the storm. The bank says it is also monitoring developments in the Cayman Islands and Belize and other member countries that the hurricane is projected to impact. Further afield, Jeff Bezos is planning on selling $5 billion worth of Amazon shares, and it comes after the stock hit a record high. Bezos disclosed the proposed sale of the 25 million shares in a regulatory notice that was filed after the market closed Tuesday. Amazon stock also hit an all-time high during the day's trading session. Following the sale, the Amazon owner would still own 912 million shares, which is nearly 9% of the company. Bezos unloaded over $8 billion worth of shares earlier this year. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Carrie Ann Simpson.
Time now for the top regional and international stories.
The region. The UN has released $4 million from its emergency fund to aid relief efforts and is assessing further humanitarian needs. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres expressed solidarity with the Caribbean nations hit by Hurricane Beryl that caused extensive damage in Jamaica, as well as loss of life in Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. UN humanitarian teams are actively engaged in damage assessment and response coordination with local authorities in affected countries, including Barbados and throughout the Eastern Caribbean. On the international scene, Labour leader Keir Starmer has won the UK general election in a landslide, with results from almost all the parliamentary seats declared. Keir Starmer will be the next Prime Minister and is meeting with King Charles, where he will be invited to form a government. Outgoing Prime Minister Rishi Sunak pledged to resign as a party leader, with several cabinet ministers, including former Prime Minister Liz Truss, losing their seats. Nigel Farage's Reform UK party made gains, splitting the right-wing vote and contributing to Conservative losses. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Nikinsky Robinson.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Shamela Pullen. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.